And we are back for round 4 of this week's Eternal Tournament Series Open. I am Sir Rhino, and joining me in the booth to help break down this match is Ilyon. How you doing, Ilyon?
I'm doing pretty good. We've got a good matchup here. We've got Xenon midrange versus a traditional Argenport kind of midrange as well. So we've got some midrange decks smashing into each other.
Yeah, now you would say kind of traditional Argenport midrange, but this is kind of bucked the recent tradition, if you will, right? It's the list that had really been making a splash and being the more popular deck of choice had been the 4 Crown Watch Traders, the Inquisitor's Blade, full set of 8 Warcry 2-drops. This one's getting away from that and going back towards having Impending Doom and Argenport Instigator as its units of choice, with a few less weapons to go around, just a whole bunch of units instead.
Yeah, you're not running the Inquisitor's Blades. You're running a little bit more Impending Dooms instead as your flyers for your threat.
No Auric Runehammer's main deck either, so it's really just the 4 Bloodletters as the weapons in this deck. A pretty bold call there from Pupicitus. I'm interested to see how that plays out. On the other end is a archetype that has a lot of wiggle room. There is no really agreed upon stock list, and that's Alarmadillo is calling it Xenon midrange. I'm fine with that. Sometimes they call it Xenon Interrogator because it's all about 4 Interrogator, 3 to 4 Obelisk, 3 to 4 Xenon Initiation, some number of Dark Return. So you have a lot of ways to buff that card, and then you kind of build out from around there with other really solid mid-range threats.
Yeah, Xenon is just kind of being a pile of just really good cards. There's a lot of wiggle room for what really good cards you want to actually play that week and what you think the meta game is going to be. So you get a lot of wiggle room for how to put that up. This list not running like things like the Blister Sting Wasp, not running, not main deck anyways, and not running the Vara's Choice main either, instead opting for things like Dark Return and Venom Rider and trying to go that route instead.
Xenon has a lot of options, a lot of strong cards to play, but you have to be careful with how you build it because of the influence requirements of these cards. You're trying to hit double Shadow on 3 with Auric Interrogator and Ion. You need double time for Sandstorm Titan and Venom Rider, and triple time for Carnosaur. And again, Xenon is one of those that aren't lucky enough to have a crest, so that can cause some real problems for this deck as this match gets underway.
Speaking of influence problems, triple Auric Interrogator for Puppy here is not the ideal starting hand when you only have 1 Shadow.
Yeah, Auric Interrogator, not castable here, and has been in and out of Argenport lists for a while, wasn't seeing play, but with the advent of more Warcry and weapons to put on Interrogator, it started seeing more play. Although this deck got away from the extra Warcry and weapons, but is still sticking with the Interrogator anyways.
And we're seeing Interrogator on at least one side of the board, though. We're gonna see a ton of interrogation in this matchup. That Vara's Favor being a very key draw at this point. Choosing not to vanquish the Auric Interrogator yet. Probably wanting to silence it first, so you're not running into the Dark Return immediately have it. And they know that the Dark Return is there because of the sabotage earlier.
Exactly, and it's not like Pupicitus would know Alarmadillo was stuck on power or whatever. But the problem is you didn't vanquish it now, and you're under pressure. And if Alarmadillo does draw power, this Obelisk is just going to be absolutely massive. Instead, just draws more 3-drops and chooses to save this super valuable banish for another target and just allow this Interrogator to get traded off.
Well, we wanted extra Shadow, but I don't know that double Vara's Favor, or rather triple Vara's Favor was the way to get it. A little just bit of a slower start here. We're going to be able to play all of our threats, though, as Puppy now. So this is going to be an interesting game at this point. Really, it depends on whether Alarmadillo can actually get this Xenon Obelisk online. If that Obelisk comes down anytime soon, then it's going to be massive. But it's slowly running away from where it would have been absolutely insane to it's just kind of okay now. And it's getting worse and worse as time goes by, right?
Yeah, and there's something else to highlight here, and that's the Annihilate in Alarmadillo's hand. Alarmadillo opted to go for 4 main deck Annihilate, 4 Xenon Initiation, 4 Banish as their removal suite. None of those hit Tavron.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you feel about that? Because
the 4 Varus choice are in the sideboard, and that choice, you're feeling the effects of it here, not having any answer to this Tavrod right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that Annihilate is the card that you want to have 4 of. The metagame is something that it does shift around a lot, and you've got to make some calls on what you think other people are going to be running. But it's hard because it misses a lot of important things. You're not able to annihilate Shelter Wing Riders to pop Aegis. You're not able to, hit Icaria. It misses Tavrod. Like there's a lot of things that it just doesn't hit at all. And well, like Vara's choice always just feels super medium because I mean, you still have to deal with the 5/7 eventually. At least it stops them from getting value off after it, lands again.
I'm typically a fan of playing like a mix of both, but if you really have a meta call, oh my god, this Tavrod with the double hit.
So wow.
It's I can respect going for Annihilate. I did that in the World Championships in my main deck. Now I still had access to 4 Varus choice, and it ended up being that I wanted 4 Varus choice all the time in like a lot of matchups. But especially when Time's really popular, or like the Xenon deck was really popular. For Annihilate into like 4 Predatory Carnosaur or 4 Sandstorm Titans, amazing. Not so amazing against. It's actually pretty good against some versions of Argenport. Like it's better than normal against this Argenport list because this Argenport list is playing Impending Doom. But the fact remains, it doesn't hit Trader, it doesn't hit Tavrod, and that's a big deal in this game.
Right now, you can see how bad it is. Well, this Tavrod is now becoming a 13-10 endurance lifesteal unit and is just going to hammer Alarmadillo here. I mean, a lot of Alarmadillo's problem was just missing on that on-curve Xenon Obelisk, though. I've got to imagine if that had actually landed on turn 4, that this game would have been a lot different than what we're seeing.
Oh, yeah, because Pupicitus, while he had a Tavrod, if you had a Tavrod against a board that was all units that could actually double and triple block him easily, and Alarmadillo was keeping up and spending resources, it wouldn't have been a big problem, right? This Tavrod wasn't going to get flying like some of the other versions of Argenport. But in the case of this game, Alarmadillo stumbled for a little too long, and those are the kind of games that Tavrod can really run away with. As we're waiting on this Sabotage to resolve, what do you think Pupicitus is scared of most here? That the Xenon Initiation could actually be an answer to Tavrod because Alarmadillo plays Ripknife Assassin. So you could take that out, but Dark Return could be good here as well. And that's what Puppy goes
for the Dark Return.
Rip instead.
I think I might have gone for the Initiation. I'm not 100% on that one. I mean, it's a tough call. There's not a lot that you're super worried about in the hand. I mean, you've got a lot of choices, but there's nothing that's like, you've got to be pretty happy if you're Puppy seeing that hand, honestly, because you just know that this Tavrod's just going to keep smashing in for a little while, and you've got a bunch of backups.
Yeah, so Puppy last turn had the option of playing Valkyrie Enforcer just to, silence a Sandstorm Titan, but I think he is wisely respecting the fact that Alarmadillo plays Ripknife Assassin, and that's another, even if it didn't get deadly, it could also just sit back and block, or get killed, or it could sit back and block Tavrod. Instead, Tavrod's going to jam in here, get double blocked, but the damage has been done. A second one shows up, and Alarmadillo's is basically Ripknife Assassin or bust.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an opening here where that Tavrod missed. If this one misses again and Alarmadillo top decks, it's possible. I mean, it's a narrow window, but considering where it was a minute ago, it didn't look good. That Bloodletter is just nasty, though. I mean, this is going to be very, very hard. I don't think there's really any way out of it at this point. I suppose that if you Ripknife Assassin, you can kill the Tavrod, and then, but I mean, then you don't have enough for Banish. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, Ripknife Assassin here is.
But it's not there.
Just another Banish. So now we get to go to boards, and crucially, Alarmadillo's got to get back in this game, but I think they've got the tools to do so with this sideboard. Blister Sting Wasp is a card that is really, really good against Argenport in my experience. It just is cheap. You can play it down, and Argenport's got to use like a Slay on it or silence it with Valkyrie Enforcer. And
which just
anything
feels
else.
awesome.
Oh yeah, and anything else it's just going to trade with. It's going to trade with Tavrod, Impending Doom, whatever. Crown Watch Trader is the only unit that can swing into it out of Argenport and not trade. So it's a card that I've always been really impressed with in this matchup. It's one of the reasons I think to play Xenon right now, especially when Argenport is popular, is you get access to Blister Sting Wasp. I expect that to come in, and some amount of Vara's choice will get swapped in for, I don't know what, maybe trim down on the Dark Returns?
Yeah, I think that I'd probably take out, I might even just take out all 4 Dark Returns to play the Wasps and as many Vara's choices as I can. Do you trim down on any Annihilates against this list? I mean, probably not, knowing that they have the Impending Doom, but it's just so bad against Tavrod.
It's bad against Tavrod and amazing against everything else. Like Tavrod's basically the only miss. So about
Crown Watch Trader too is kind of a tough one, and the Mokdos could come in as well.
Yeah, you've got to think about that post board. So I wouldn't be shocked to see some number of Annihilates get trimmed down on, but almost certainly not all of them.
Oh no, you wouldn't do that.
What about Venom Rider? Is that doing something in this matchup? Like, is it going to be slow and grindy enough that you're going to reliably get the activations off and turn it into a nice removal spell?
I think that you almost just need to keep it in because it is one of your good answers to Tavrod. Tavrod with Bloodletter is such a threat, and you don't have a lot of things that can answer it. Like Blister Sting Wasp comes out of the board to answer it, but that doesn't mean that you trim down on your main board answers to it either, right? So I think that Venom Rider has to stay in at least as some number. Just, I don't know that you're often going to have the game go that grindy, but you're going to try and hope for it and try and get to that, maneuver yourself into that position so that you can use it, because it is one of your few answers to it.
Yeah, getting the game into a grind out board stall is exactly what Xenon wants. So playing the right tools you have to both get there and then still keep enough things in the deck so that you can leverage that board state, right? You can't get away from your core game plan, and that's the key here with balancing it out post board. So
we'll have to see what the choices are made here.
I personally have not played with Venom Rider a lot yet. I really should get my hands on it and play with it more, because it in certain matchups it can do some really impressive things. I've seen it even show up in like some Combre, like kind of aggro lists too, where it has 2 battle skills and you can back it up with Stand Together and get some real pressure and build in some removal, as you said. So it's
Combre aggro is a list that I liked it in a lot. It really surprised me. I always felt that Venom Rider was very subpar until I started running more of the Combre aggro list, and then I was like, well, I mean, as one of your late game options, Venom Rider is better than it looks.
It's a very interesting card, just something we haven't seen anything like before. 3/3 charge deadly, and it has this activated ability that essentially reads kill a unit. Like it's just a weird package that we haven't seen before. It was really hard to evaluate what it would feel like and play like. And I think it's just hasn't found quite the right home yet because of those factors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Venom Rider has to stay, though, at least in some number. I'd probably try and keep all 4 if I could, and just cut down on the Dark Returns personally.
Yeah, would you cut Carnosaurs before you cut Venom Riders, like just to try and keep it a little bit cheaper?
Well, also Carnosaur doesn't deal with Tavrod.
Well, if you have Obelisk,
it does if you have Obelisk, but also if the Tavrod doesn't have any weapons on it yet, right? So I mean, Carnosaur you might chop down before Venom Rider. That's an interesting choice.
There's a lot of games though where Tavrod's not going to be as good as it was that last game.
No,
react to that game. It's not all about Tavrod. Impending Doom in a lot of spots is going to be
exactly. Yeah, you can also hit the Impending Doom too. So it's a tough one. I mean, the Impending Doom with a weapon, though, it also doesn't get, right? Like, it doesn't get a blood-lettered Impending Doom.
Sure.
So it's kind of, is Venom Rider better? I'm not 100% certain on that. And maybe Alarmadillo here actually has that line. Like, they've probably tested it a little bit more, and they might cut the Carnosaur.
Yeah.
I could see it happening. I mean, I'm not sure it would be correct or not, but I can see it happening.
For now, Alarmadillo has kept at least 1 Carnosaur, and that's in hand. But more importantly, a pair of Blister Sting Wasps is on the board and in the way of this Ripknife Assassin. Now, the Ripknife Assassin does trade with a Wasp and gets a War Cry. We'll see if Puppy wants to do that. Also has a Valkyrie Enforcer, which can silence one of them. Slay can deal with the other one, but then you're using Slay on Wasp, and as you said, that feels bad, but can often be correct, especially with a Vanquish waiting in the wings. So Puppy has a lot of choices. We'll see what he ends up settling on here.
Yeah, I like this attack. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, I love this attack.
Yeah,
like, what else is this Rip Knife Assassin going to do? You're not giving it killer like Alarmadillo can. Like, just swing. You want it to trade with a Blistersting Wasp here. That would be a huge win for you. And if it doesn't trade, you're getting Warcries, which you're playing a lot of things that would love Warcry hits, especially against a deck with killer effects and things like that. Meanwhile, Alarmadillo's got a lot of removal, a lot of redundancies going on here. Has the initiation Dark Return combo with a Blistersting Wasp if they want to try and go in on that. Could banish. What do you like here?
I mean, a little squeezed on power and influence requirements right now. At this point, you really need to deal with that Rip Knife Assassin in some way. I think that just holding up the banish, I guess, is the choice that's being made here.
Yeah, you're holding up both banish and annihilate here, so that if Puppy plays a strong 4-drop, you can deal with it.
Or if there's probably a bloodletter, like there's a good option for they bloodletter onto the Rip Knife Assassin or something where it has to be stopped. So you might want to try and deal with that.
All right,
I'm imagining in response to the Slay, you're going to see a banish or do you use banish or annihilate on the 2/2?
I would use annihilate. Banish can hit Crown Watch Trader going forward, and like any units that get weapons. Although it is a little more expensive because you're so tight on power, I don't think trying to put value into possibly playing multiple spells in a turn is what you want to be planning for right now. But it's close. There's also the chance that they brought in Auric Runehammer, and because you're struggling to play out more than one spell a turn, Banish's value in dealing with Runehammer is really big here too. Yeah,
we're seeing a lot of mana issues from both of the players here right now, where they're both just a little squeezed. Puppy, lucky enough, having the Vara's favors is going to kind of pull out of that, but
yeah,
tough beginning for both of the players right now.
Yeah, Puppy was kind of stuck on power by choice. Like, he could have played these Vara's favors in a lot of different spots and chose to instead develop his board. Alarmadillo hasn't had a choice here. He's been just drawing non-power, and here draws a Amber Monument, which is power, but not a shadow source. So he's just going to Dark Return this Blistersting Wasp, which honestly pretty good right now. 2/4 deadly forces a Bloodletter onto this Instigator, and even then you're getting a 2-for-1 out of the deal.
Well, or you could have just attacked and then get the Vara's favor.
Oh yeah, and I
would definitely think that the attack is correct here. I mean, as Alarmadillo, you've got to probably realize that you're going to get Vara's favorite if you do block, but at the same time, what do you do? Just not block? That doesn't seem very good either.
It's just 3 damage. I think it's fine to not block here. You have Initiation and Banish in hand, and Puppy is stuck on power, so they're going to use the Vara's favor anyways. So yeah, I mean, that's Puppy's whole turn. He's not doing anything else here. He could just play a Bloodletter because he's got a second one just to get it out of hand.
It might have almost been better to Bloodletter just because you really want to trade this Instigator for the Blister Sting, and that does kind of force it to be answered because you really need this Tavrod to start swinging. And you can't do that into the Blister Sting Wasp right now.
All right, and there's an Annihilate. So now you can... I mean, Alarmadillo's hand is just removal on removal on removal.
Alarmadillo is kind of set up nicely here where, I mean... We're seeing Bloodletter and Tavrod and things, but I mean, this just gets annihilated, and then Tavrod can come. Tavrod comes down and is blanked by Blistersting Wasp. They're stuck on power, but Puppy's hand here is just kind of blanked by what's going on with Alarmadillo.
And there's a Varus choice.
Oh, that's now we're really seeing a problem. Oh yeah, just get in.
Alarmadillo's been stuck on power, but has not been stuck on answers. And Puppy is out of gas. A Bloodletter and Vanquish sitting in hand, and now it's just going to get chipped away by these wasps. There's
that's a really key turn for the Shadow too.
Yeah. Now,
just as things are turning, you see this. Do you put the? Oh wow, there's the Slay. I was wondering if you would just put the Initiation immediately onto the Interrogator to get the draw.
I don't think you're that desperate to turn your Initiation into a cantrip, especially with Dark Return coming off the top here for this Interrogator. Holy cow. That's a nice honestly 3 straight draws from the Xenon deck. And that's kind of what the Xenon deck is. It's just all of its cheap cards are basically removal spells because they're deadly units in this matchup. And Vera's Choice and Annihilate and Banish. And then your slightly more expensive cards are just 3 and 4 drops that draw cards and replace themselves.
Yeah, and Puppy, oh, and here's that Venom Rider.
Yeah.
That's actually going to be really tough for Puppy to deal with, because I was just going to say, I mean, Puppy, luckily here, before that, I was going to say they could top deck like a Valkyrie Enforcer and kind of be back in the game because they can get rid of the Blister Sting Wasp and then maybe hope to get a Tab Rod or something. But now, I mean, I think that you just almost alt Venom Rider as soon as possible so that you just have another threat that can't be dealt with, right?
With the draw of Dark Return, Alarmadillo instead is going to go with a Killer Wasp and probably just Dark Return Interrogator, have it backed up by Banish and Carnosaur. And you're against Argenport. They're not getting out of this spot. They're not a deck that makes comebacks or huge swings.
This one's over.
And this is what Xenon does in this matchup, where just basically every card is great and a must answer thing, and if they can play them all, they're just going to be in great shape. And all right, Alarmadillo has to deal with a very large lifesteal unit, has Banish for it.
And there we go. That's the game.
Yeah,
that was just sick draws from Alarmadillo there on a key turn. Getting that shadow right then was incredibly important.
Yeah, but that was all built off of the Blister Sting Wasp coming out from the sideboard. What other 2-drop does what that card did in that game, right?
Yeah, it was just no question. Yeah, it absolutely blanked so much of Puppy's draw. Like, Puppy's draw looked good, but everything that they had just couldn't get through Blister Sting Wasp. Like, you have to use Slay for some of the other threats, and then you're just stuck with this Tavrod, but Tavrod can't actually do anything. Like, it'll get one hit in, and that's just not good enough.
Yeah, I don't love the 4 Dark Return from Alarmadillo with their starting main deck, but once those 3 extra cheap Blister Sting Wasps come in, the ability for this Dark Return to have an impact earlier on in the game really got shown there as we get ready for a third game. Wonder if Puppy is going to try and change his game plan at all now, realizing what Alarmadillo's transformed his deck into. Extra Sabotages, Vera's Choice, and Blister Sting Wasp, I think, all came in. Or did we see a Sabotage from Alarmadillo that game? Maybe that didn't come in.
I don't think we did. No, I don't remember one. I mean, you've got to think the Suffocates came in from Puppy, right? They're certainly going to have to now. Like, Suffocate Blister Sting Wasp is going to be a key part of this, I have to think.
Yeah, Suffocate can even hit Venom Rider if Obelisk isn't in play. It deals with the deadly units of both Wasp and Rift Knife Assassin. Really, the key for Puppy in these post-war games is draw as many Valkyrie Enforcers as possible. That is by far your best card in this matchup, because they can neuter the deadly units and provide you a flying threat. And that last game, Puppy drew 1, but I think the post-war games where he's got the best shot is when he draws 2 or more Valkyrie Enforcers. Yeah,
absolutely. Just being able to silence, like, stopping the power of those Dark Returns is not to be underestimated either. We saw how good Dark Return became in that particular matchup. Like, that was just absolutely backbreaking, buying back Auric Interrogator turn after turn. If you silence it, I mean, it's still a big threat, but at least it's not getting extra things. Overloading you with value.
I was experimenting after seeing, I've played a lot of Xenon before, and after seeing how good Blister Sting Wasp was against Argenport a couple weeks back, I wanted to try and push that even more. So I've been playing around with a Xenon list that's on 4 Wasp, 4 Rip Knife Assassin, and 4 Memory Dredger to just constantly get back these deadly units, especially once they get killer. And it's been a lot of fun to play. There's some other really strong 2-drops that you have available in Xenon if you want to. I've had games where if you're playing the 2-drop Radiant with Lifesteal, that guy. I've had a few games where I've ended up going up against like Chalice, and I play it, and I have 10 power. I activate it, they kill it with Vanquish. I get it back and activate it again, and they're milled out all of a sudden. It's fun what Xenon can throw at people.
Yeah, Dream Snatcher is a decent card in some of those grindy matchups, and like you said, I mean, Xenon just has a lot of different ways to build right now because there's just so many value cards in those colors that you can build a basis around. Just grab a bunch of things that are pretty good and slam them into a deck, and you've got something that's pretty decent.
Right. The key is making your power work. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it all goes back to, as we see Seek Power from Alarmadillo to help with that. But he's got an answer. He's got a handful of units that kill other units and all dodge sabotage, right? He effectively has 3 removal spells here, and the sabotage can't deal with any of them.
Yeah, no. Although it will hit that Dark Return that just got drawn, so that luckily got turned on for Puppy here, because otherwise that sabotage was going to be pretty lackluster.
Although I don't know if we're going to see that.
I don't
here.
think, we might not.
You might just offer the Instigator trade and get down one of these 3 drops. Like, it's pretty important that you don't miss a 3 drop here, I would say, with Alarmadillo not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be a thing, though, where Puppy is sniffing out a potential banish and instead wants to use sabotage before that comes out on one of his units. But with the playing of undepleted power,
yeah, I was going to say with undepleted power, some manner of 3-drop is coming down. I can't imagine that it's correct to play an undepleted power and then also play just the sabotage.
Yeah, so here comes the Venom Rider, though, and that's just now going to threaten to activate and kill whatever gets this Bloodletter. So doubt Puppy's going to commit to that now and instead just use Sabo and get down the Unseen Commando.
Yeah, and Puppy reading Venom Rider here again for a moment, just to make sure, knows exactly what it does.
Because I think Puppy, before this Venom Rider showed up, was thinking, oh, I'm just going to play Bloodletter on an Interrogator and sit, right?
Yes.
I was just going to Sabo. Oh, they don't have an answer to it. Great. I'm going to sit on this Interrogator and actually try and outgrind. Now with Venom Rider just threatening activation, you can't sit on an Interrogator with a Bloodletter. You've got to change your game plan again, but this Blissing Wasp kind of throws a wrench into all of them.
Yeah, and we're seeing what we were talking about, where like Venom Rider is a hard card to evaluate, but sometimes it's just super annoying. Another sabotage is definitely not what Puppy wants here. But
I doubt
Venom Rider just kind of...
Man, he's thinking about it, though.
Yeah, that's a thought.
I would be pretty surprised to keep that on top blind with one already in hand that you haven't played. I mean, but going back to the past few games, you've seen Xena Initiation, Banish, Annihilate, Dark Return, Obelisk. There's a lot of hits. It's not an insignificant number, but...
No, and you got absolutely destroyed by the Dark Returns last time, so it's one of those things where we're sitting here evaluating it from the sidelines, and when you're actually in the game, like you said, you can tend to over-evaluate things like that, and it gets into your head where you're like, man, well, like those Dark Returns were so good last time. Do I just need an answer to it?
Yeah. At the same time, though, your opponent's about to have 4 or 5 power access to. Yeah. You're not really ahead on board, so you really need to dig for a card that helps you get ahead on board, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely
helping you with that. So
no question. It was wise to put it on the bottom. It's just one of those things where you can see a player, think themselves into a corner there.
All right, and we see
activating the...
Yeah, Alarmadillo decides to kill the flying threat rather than the potentially buffed up Interrogator. Again, Interrogator would have to get a weapon put on him to start drawing cards. And this Venom Rider, just a clean, easy 2-for-1.
Yeah, we're seeing the power of that Venom Rider where it looks so clunky, but it operates a lot better than it looks. Like it just kind of works out.
Yep. Well, Dark Return does get sabotaged there, so we won't be seeing the Killer Scorpion come back or the Venom Rider get reloaded. And Interrogator gets a weapon on it, and that'll be a trade with Predatory Carnosaur. But Alarmadillo's out of gas, just 2 power in hand, and Puppy's got a 4/3 to beat down with now.
Now we're looking at just kind of who's going to be able to draw out of this situation first. Seek Power, I mean, I guess it thins the deck slightly, but not the best draws here.
No, Alarmadillo's hoping to find, an Interrogator of their own or a Dark Return or something. In the meantime, Puppy finds a Slay and now can clear the way for this Interrogator to beat down. And with Vera's favor, this is a 4-turn clock. Alarmadillo doesn't have a lot of time.
This is not going to be... we've got, Sabotage, not the best draw there. But, I mean, with Annihilate backup here, Alarmadillo's in a lot of trouble. They've got to find an answer soon to this Orc Interrogator.
Right.
And they've also got to worry about, if a weapon comes down onto the Interrogator, they're really, really dead fast. It's not going to be easy for them to come out of this.
The key here, though, is that Alarmadillo has a lot of good draws, has a lot of answers. Xena Initiation, not one of them, but if you just go down the list of what they have, Carnosaur, Venom Rider, Ion, Dark Return, Rip Knife Assassin, these were all good draws, although Puppy rips another removal spell off the top, just going to make the good draws from Alarmadillo even thinner. And
that Sabotage, yeah. I was going to say, it's so extra unfortunate there that there's...
That's lethal.
Yeah, that's lethal. Yep. But brutal end here for Alarmadillo. Just with removal spell after removal spell, getting rid of all of your threats, and Puppy coming through here for the win.
Yep, that 2-for-1 off the back of Rider, just not quite enough. Those Sabotages actually hitting their mark and making a difference that game was crucial, right? A lot of those times you can get punished real hard for keeping Sabotage post-board in these mid-range matchups, because if you whiff on a Sabo, it's basically game. Like, you just threw away a card. It's really hard to come back.
And at the beginning of the game, it looked like the Sabotage was going to be pretty blank. It didn't look like it was going to be that good, like you had said right away. Like, if they sabotaged early, then they would have just ran into a whole bunch of removal spells in the form of units that they can't remove with Sabotage. And like, I can imagine how different that game goes if they had actually played the Sabotage out early. But holding it in hand, getting that Dark Return really turned the point of the game.
Yeah, it was well done by Puppy there, finding the right timing for those Sabotages, not wasting them. And it pays off, because I would say that matchup is an uphill battle, especially post-board for Argenport, and managed to navigate it nicely.
Yeah, very well done.
All right, so it's looking like we don't have any backup matchups available. So for those at home, just let that one that we just watched really marinate and simmer in your head, because I think there was a lot of fun action that went down there. We got to see Venom Rider. You know, we talked about, we speculated, and it showed up, and I think it made its presence felt, at least in that last game, even though it didn't lead itself to a win.
Yeah, it didn't lead to the win exactly. Like, there needed to be extra backup, but I mean, no card really is going to be a win all on its own most of the time. And it did get a very clean, nice 2-for-1. It stopped a lot of the board for a long time, where it was very awkward for Puppy to land any of their weapons onto the Auric Interrogator, because they just know that the minute they do, they're open to ultimate on Venom Rider, and it just eats it immediately. So it was a pretty solid play against like these Argenport mid-range lists, at least for sure.
All right, so with that, we are going to take a short little break here as we get ready for the next round. I've got word from our producer that we've got a deck tech with Pupicitus about Argenport midrange, which we just saw him pilot to a victory. So we'll take a break and get that on, and you get to enjoy all the insight of how Valkyrie Enforcer and Tavrod and the nuances of how those cards, why are they good? It's not obvious, right?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, don't go away. There's going to be some cool deck techs coming up here, so we'll see you in just a moment for the next round too.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another